My name is John White. I joined the Royal Sussex Regiment in 1962 and have stayed with the regiment until now. I am now ranked Warrant Officer Class 2, and I am the Secretary and President of the branch, the Chichester branch of the Royal Sussex Regiment Association. My memories of service took me to many parts of the world: Germany, Gibraltar, Malta, Aden, Borneo, Brunei, and back to England, where I spent many years as an instructor at the School of Infantry in Warminster. My remembrance and detail of why I do take much pleasure in remembering along with the Royal British Legion and the city of Chichester, which was the home of the regiment for many years, and is also one of the cities that we hold the honour of okay. We hold the freedom of Chichester, and when the Royal Sussex became 3rd Battalion of the Queen's Regiment, that freedom was handed over to the new regiment. The remembrance of the city in normal circumstances would consist of the parade through the city to the War Memorial in Lytton Gardens, and I had the honour to take the members of the branch each year to that location where we remembered all of the fallen from the city. The march to and from the garden, and mainly coming back to the city, was most uplifting as we sang the marching song of the regiment, which is Sussex by the Sea. And this was welcomed by all those of the population, many of whom clapped and joined in with the singing.
My name is Brian Morley. In April 1956, I was called up from my compulsory national service. I was enlisted into the 1st Battalion of the Royal Sussex Regiment. After training in Roussillon Barracks, we were transported down to Southampton and got aboard the SS Orwell for our trip to Korea, via the Suez Canal, Aden, Colombo, Singapore, and Hong Kong, and then on to Korea. The battalion was in a peacekeeping occupation and on active service. We were the last British regiment to leave Korea in 1957. After being demobbed in 1958, I joined the Royal Sussex Regimental Association and have taken part in most of the remembrance parades in Chichester. What does the remembrance parade mean to me? Whilst marching through the streets of the city of Chichester to the memorial, with the band playing Good Old Sussex by the Sea, and to the crowds on both sides of the street, clapping and waving and cheering, it brought tears to my eyes and made me feel very proud that I was part of the Remembrance Parade. It also gives one to reminisce and think of all the military personnel who lost their lives in the First and Second World War, and also the Korean War, which was known as the Forgotten War, and other conflicts. My thoughts and prayers are for each and every one. On a personal note, I wish to remember that during my time in Korea, a Private Brian Newton, aged 19 years, who lived in Burwash in East Sussex, died in a tragic accident. He trained with me at Chichester and is now laid to rest in the United Nations Cemetery in Busan. It was an honour and a privilege for me to be able to lay a wreath on his grave on my revisit in 2013. My thoughts are with him and his family. My thoughts also go to Harry Hawksworth from the Glorious Gloucesters Regiment and Bernard Clark from the Norfolk Regiment. Both were captured in the Battle of the Imjim in 1951 and spent 2.5 years as prisoners of the Chinese. They survived after a torturous time in captivity and had the pleasure of meeting both of them, and I know that it affected their lives after being released. I'm a member of the 1st Battalion of the Royal Association. I'm also a trustee of the British Korean War Veterans Association. And I've managed to travel on a revisit back to Korea twice, once in 2013 and 2014. We remember our comrades who gave their lives in the defence of freedom under the Charter of the United Nations during and since the Korean War. None of them is forgotten before God. Keep well and keep safe, and may God all rest in peace.
My name is David Tilley. I'm branch chairman of the Royal Sussex Association Chichester branch, and also chairman of the Queen's Regimental branch here in Chichester. On reflection, Remembrance Day means to me, as I come from a very long line of Royal Sussex soldiers. My family stretched back from my father, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather all served in the Royal Sussex. I only last year found out that my grandfather, on my mother's side, who we didn't think fought in World War I, on finding his medal by a builder and passed on to me, I'd done some research and found that he actually landed at Gallipoli, and always wondered why he never spoke to me about the war years. In those days, a lot of people didn't. He was very proud of me when I told him I was joining the Royal Sussex Regiment. And off I trotted in 1964. to a beautiful sunshine island, Malta, where I met a lot of people that I'm still friends with today. Malta, Aden, Libya, Northern Ireland, all round. Cyprus. I've had the luxury and the discomforts of both sides of the army. My grandfather survived the war, but I'm finding out that he was actually severely wounded. The comrades that you make in your service last a lifetime. The Royal Sussex, have been very, very lucky in what I class as the small wars and the little things that, the little skirmishes that happened around the world that are not really recorded, but we remember. I can remember losing a very good friend of mine, David Batchelor, in Aden, and the whole Royal Sussex Regiment came together not to have him buried in Silent Valley. Each soldier in that regiment gave up a day's pay to get David Batchelor flown back to be buried in England. That is the comradeship and of the regiment, which is still today, we have a very, very strong camaraderie. In this pandemic year, going to Lytton Gardens this year will not be the same. And I hope that you can stand on your doorsteps for 2 minutes and think back to those days, just a reflection on what it's like. Next year, let's all come together. As we always say, the Remembrance Day comes from the people. When we march out of Lytton Gardens to the tune of Sussex by the Sea, we feel so proud, not only for ourselves, but hearing the people sing our national anthem, because we are proud to have served and proud to actually reflection on those that went before us.